welcome back to the Creative Collective podcast. I am your host, Tyron, and I'm joined by my co-host, Tim, who has come back to join us. It's good to have you back, Tim.
Thank you.
It's good to be recording another episode with you. So today is actually going to be a very simple episode. We're just going to have a chat about gear, which is something that we all absolutely love. So we're going to separate it into two halves, just roughly, purely for photo and for video. And just go through an idea of what we use, I suppose, would be handy. And then, what we advise someone who's starting out to get as, bare bones kit to get you started in the industry. And we'll just have a chat about that. So we'll start with photo first, and seeing as though you're our predominantly photo guy, you can start with your list of things.
My expertise.
Don't know about expertise, but we'll accept it.
Fair. So this is very unstructured. We're just chatting about gear. I currently shoot with a Canon R6 and a 35mm 1.4 and an 85mm 1.2. Those are my go-to lenses. And then I do have a couple others in my backpack, just like a 24-105, just if I want something a little wider. And but it's not a great f-stop, so I don't use it that often. Yeah. I used to carry around a 16-35 as well, but I sold that boy. I felt it was too wide. So I mean that's pretty good gear, I must admit. It's quite high level. When I say high level, it's not beginner stuff. And it is quite pricey, so I have worked towards it, and it's been an investment to say the least. And I have thought it's been necessary to have that gear, and that's why I own it. But that being said, as a beginner, I started out, and we're talking 10 years ago, with a Canon 500D, nice little DSLR thing, one of the first ones with video. And that actually suited me for quite a while until I did upgrade, I think to the 650D, which I think in America is like the T6i or something, the Rebel T6i. And I used to shoot the 1855 because that's a kit lens that comes with it. Yeah. But soon I got a 50mm 1.8, and no matter what system you're using, you may have heard it a couple of times, and they're not lying. The 50mm 1.8 is the best budget lens you can buy, like 100%. And it's just for that aperture, the 1.8. I think when I had the 1855 and I started photography, I was like, I mean, that can go to 50. Why do I need this other lens? That's just going to cost me some money. Yeah. As soon as I got it, it was a game changer. Yeah. And I think I actually shot a full wedding on just the 50mm ones back in the day. Yeah, that's believable. And I feel like we all kind of had that in our kit at some point. But that being said, the best bit of advice I can give someone that wants to go into wedding photography especially is, depending on price as well, I know that's a big factor, is find something that has dual card slots. And that's something we were talking about. I mean, I feel like we talk about it at every wedding. Do you have both cards in? Yeah. Unfortunately, I've never had the problem with it. I mean, before I had the R6, I actually had the R before, and that only has one card, one SD card slot. And I've never had a problem. But I have heard some horror stories, and I would definitely suggest investing in one of the two cards, just because if your card crashes, you've lost the wedding, and then you lose all the money. You spend all the time there. You don't have any portfolio. The clients are upset. They want their money back, and it's just a mess. It just is the worst possible situation. Yeah. So if that's one bit of advice I can say is get a camera with a dual card slot. I'm promoting Canon here because I'm a Canon user. We have a Sony user next to me, and
not for much longer.
I don't know which of the Sony ranges. I know the A7 IIIs and 4s have dual card slots. I don't know about the A6000 range, but That's
Cool.
my one bit of advice.
Cool. And then obviously, as I said, you're our main kind of photographer within the business. What do you use in the way of lighting and stuff like that? And before we get into that, you've obviously spoken about your lenses. How many batteries do you think you go
How
through?
many are necessary, or how many do I use?
How many do you use, and how many do you think are necessary?
So in my camera bag, I carry 9 batteries, but I don't go through all of them. I'd say I probably go through about 5 in a day, in a wedding day. I do tend to overshoot. And I think with mirrorless, that's one of the big changes. I mean, we can talk about DSLR versus mirrorless if we wanted to, but
Don't think we have the time.
I don't think we have the time. One of the big differences is for me is how quickly it shoots, and I can just put the shutter down and it can go. And I say the shutter, it doesn't actually have a shutter. It doesn't have a mirror, let's say. Yeah. But I go through about 7,000 photos in a wedding day, which is quite hefty. But that's why we use aftershoot.
That's why we use aftershoot, absolutely.
That's for the culling. But so they say the mirrorless ones the batteries last based on how many photos you take. That's not really true. Although that is how they say it can last like 400 shots or whatever. Yeah. It depends if your camera's on the whole day or if you turn it off at some points, like when you travel between the church and the reception or something. I'm pretty careful with the batteries. I don't like just have them on running all the time. And that's also because I know my camera so well. I know if it's on or off just based on where my hands are on the camera. So I carry 9 in my bag just as like an in case. But also because I do shoot video from time to time, I think video eats a lot more battery than photo does. Yeah. But I would say I go through between 4 and 5 a day. I'd say max 5. I don't surpass that. Yeah. And in terms of lighting, I have a Canon 600 EXRT and a Godox V863. And I'm thinking of getting rid of the Canon and going for another Godox. Just because I also have the Godox XT2, which is a trigger. So I can have that on my camera and then I can shoot off-camera flash, or I can have it on the other side of the room for speeches or for dancing or something like that. It's quite nice to be able to move around. Yeah. And then I have the 600 as a backup, which I don't always use.
Cool. Well, it's a decent enough setup, and obviously we'll get into what everyone should have as a bare bones kit, kind of towards the end of this episode as a closing segment. But I'll have a chat about video. Yeah. Obviously for me personally, I use Sony, as you say. I've got 3 A7 IVs that I use. They're absolute workhorses. I couldn't be without them. Absolutely love them. The most important things for me ultimately is that they've got continuous recording, so that's handy for ceremonies and for speeches.
Yes, that's all you Sony guys talk about is the continuous recording.
Between just color and continuous recording, that's all we really need.
Just because Canon stops at 30 minutes, we're getting rid of it. The R5 and the R6 updates, we're okay.
But that was the main thing. The initial thing that motivated me to go towards Sony was that at the time they were pretty much the only mainstream mirrorless cameras that had dual card slots. I think the R had just come out. I can't remember. Maybe it wasn't even out yet, but it only had the 1 card slot. So whether you shoot photo or video, 2 card slots, I think, are an absolute must, because to have that redundancy is hugely important. Those are the cameras that I use. The lenses that I use, I've got the the Sony 20mm 1.8, which is what we're filming on right now. I've got the Sigma 35mm 1.2, which, despite its weight, is an incredible lens. I love it. It's on a wedding day, I'm usually running that and the 85mm 1.4, also from Sigma. The 2 lenses together are an amazing combination for photo and video. So although the 35mm 1.2 is not a comfortable gimbal lens, so that's the one thing to keep in mind is try not fly that on the gimbal. yeah, so those are my three main lenses. I've got a couple of other lenses that I don't really use in the wedding business, but that's what I use for weddings. And in terms of batteries, I've got 8 in my case, and I must be honest, I go through 7, sometimes 8 on a wedding day. I think some of them, I think some of them are getting a bit old now. So there's probably that. I think if I had to replace them all with new batteries, I might get through maybe 5 or so. Probably similar to what you do, but that's video, and I'm obviously very, very conscious of switching off the cameras when they're not in use as well, because that can, as you say, eat into your batteries. So it's good to have enough, but we're also not saying go out and buy 10 or 12 batteries. Just be.
It also depends what mode you shoot on. Like if you shoot log, which we do, then it takes a lot more battery. But if you just shoot like all eye or I can't think of the other one. Yeah, that's just the neutral profile. Then it uses a lot less battery, and you can get away with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in terms of a gimbal, I've got the OG Ronin S, so nothing spectacular with that. It's still an awesome gimbal. I know you've had your complaints about using it from time to time, but
that's only because I have the RS2, and I definitely think you should upgrade.
Yeah,
the motors are incredible.
Yeah, but the OG Ronin S2, it does the job. It is showing its age. It's somewhat falling apart in places.
As long as it works,
does a good job. In terms of audio, I've got quite a few things that I use for audio. First and foremost, for scratch, we use what we're using right now, which is the Rode Video Mic Go 2. I never got to use the Video Mic 1s, but apparently the 2s are incredible upgrades on the 1s. And just someone coming into Rode, just using them for the first time, they're amazing. Like right now, we're using them for a podcast, and the audio is what we think is pretty good. But then you can just whack them on top of a camera and use them for scratch audio at a wedding, or whatever you're doing with them. So yeah, we've got a number of them. We've got Sony TX650s and 660s, which is a little pocket recorders. They're super handy just to put either into a jacket pocket, or stick them onto a microphone for speeches, or even for the ceremony, depending on what's there. And then in terms of wireless audio, I've got the Synco G2A2 set, which is 2 transmitters, 1 receiver. The receiver goes on the camera, obviously, and then you've got the benefit of having 2 transmitters that you can put on the groom and the best man, or the groom and the officiant, or whatever the case may be. But really, really good to use them. In terms of lighting, obviously we use kind of lighting within the business for both photo and video. So we've got a wide variety of things that we've got a share of, essentially. But I use little I can't remember the name of them, but they're little Godox LED panels that are just perfect. You've seen them and used quite a few times. You put them on a light stand. They're tiny. They weigh nothing. You can put them in your back pocket. But they've got.
You can forget them at a wedding.
You can forget them at a wedding. Yes, been there, done that. Unfortunately,
we got it back. It's okay.
We got it back, thankfully. And yeah, you've got RGB with that. So if you wanted to get creative, you can. But yeah, you've got 5600 if you wanted there to light everything nicely. And yeah, that's pretty much that. Obviously, in terms of drones, we both use drones. I've now got the DJI Mini 3 Pro. I used to have the Mavic Air 2, and I love the Mavic Air 2. But the fact that the Mini 3 Pro has 10-bit color, again, for someone that uses 10-bit color religiously, it makes a huge difference. So definitely love that. You've got a drone as well, don't you?
I do. I've got the Mavic Air, the original one.
There we go.
I just haven't felt the need to upgrade. Yeah. It's still pretty good, the quality it produces. So
yeah. And in terms of obviously the lighting that we kind of share in the business, because Yeah, we obviously with 2 or 3 of us on a wedding day, there's generally quite a bit of lighting going around. We've got 2 Godox 8200 Pros, which are kind of staples for any off-camera flash work that we do.
Yeah, they really come in handy in the winter as well when it gets dark
Exactly.
in Ireland around 3 o'clock.
Exactly. We've got a couple of Godox flashes. I know we've got the V862. We've got the V863. We've got a couple of them laying around as well. So yeah, that's it as far as flashes are concerned. We obviously swear by MagMod, as you can see from the logo in the background there. So we've got a couple of MagMod items. The Magbox would be the most popular, the one that we use the most. Absolutely love the Magbox, and yeah, that's it.
Tripods? What tripods are you running?
Tripods, yeah. Like if you're doing video, obviously you need a good fluid head video tripod. If you're doing photo, there's nothing in particular that you really need. Just make sure that it has sturdy legs.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously we have, due to the nature of our business, we probably have a lot more equipment than what most people would have or need for that matter. But everything that we have has a purpose. Yeah. It has its job. We know what it does. We know what it doesn't do. We know what it can do if we need to push it, whatever the case is. But yeah, in terms of if you're starting out, as far as photos concerned and as far as video is concerned, the preference obviously is to have a camera with dual card slots. That in today's modern age, it's almost a non-negotiable. You need to have dual card slots because you need that insurance policy that's there. If you do have a card corrupt on you. I did have a card corrupt on me once on the old A7 IIIs, and it's not a fun position to be in on a wedding day. It's the last thing that you want to really go through and feel, because sometimes you won't even know if it's
done.
Yeah, and you don't know if you can save it until you've actually gotten to a laptop, or if you've gotten home to your desktop, or whatever the case may be. Until then, you don't know if it's salvageable. Yeah, and even then, it might be questionable after that. So yeah, just don't do it. Go for a camera that has dual card slots if you can stretch your budget that far. If you can't, it's try and do it ASAP. In terms of lenses, as Tim said, a 50mm 1.8 is most of the time all you really need. A good second lens then after that would be an 85mm 1.8, I think, especially for weddings.
That's full frame all crop sensor essentially. Yeah,
full frame all crop, whatever it might be. But those two for weddings, are a great combination. I used to use a 55mm 1.8 for Sony, and I sold it, and I hate myself for selling it. So I'm looking forward to getting one again. But the 50mm focal range, or the focal length, is perfect for weddings, and then the 85mm is obviously great for compression and stuff like that. So
I think I've always said if I almost started over again and I had the money, obviously it's an expensive lens, I think I would try and get a 2470 2.8 just again for that aperture, and you can shoot on one body then. I mean, I prefer to have two bodies just as one as a backup, but if you could get away with it, or you had the money, the 2470 covers the nice wide angles, and then you can zoom and it'll have a bit more reach, and obviously it's a bit pricey, and I've personally gone for second hand in the past. I've actually had a 2470 in my bag at one stage, but when I could upgrade, I got the 35 and the 85, and I like that combination. I know it's very popular and people debate whether it's the best or not, and I'm not saying it is the best. I'm just saying that's how I found my style, is by using the 35mm and the 85mm. But if I was going for one lens and only one lens in my kit, I would try and get that 2470. But if I was starting out and I had a budget, 50mm, straight up 50mm, and then get that 85 afterwards, because that 85 definitely just adds something a whole new element, and you take a step back and you can almost get the background to look like it's right in front of the people, or right behind them rather.
Yeah.
Right behind your couple when you're shooting. And that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, just obviously to kind of land the plane, so to speak. Definitely minimum of one camera, preferably two, with card slots, with dual card slots. Sorry, 35mm or 50mm 1.8 thereabouts, depending on what brand. Some brands, they might have a less than desirable 50mm 1.8, so you might be looking at a 35mm 1.8. There sometimes can be a big price difference. I know in Sony there is, like, you can get the 50mm 1.8 for maybe $250, whereas the 35mm 1.8 is probably $600 or $700. So there's quite a big difference with that. They're both good enough. The 35mm 1.8 is amazing if you are looking at Sony, or if you do have a Sony. And then if you're doing photo, get a flash. It's never going to be. You're always going to have a need for it at some point or another, whether it's just for the first dance, or if it's a dark day and you need some light, or if it's a dark room. And
don't be scared of it.
Don't be scared of it.
A lot of people say they're scared
exactly.
of flash.
Learn how to use flash.
Yeah, and a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm a natural light photographer only." We are basically natural light, and then during the dancing or the speeches, because it gets dark early, you have to bring it out. And
exactly.
Just learn to use it.
Exactly. And then in terms of video, obviously you're going to need a tripod, definitely, for at least the ceremony and speeches. You're going to need a gimbal. The gimbal with the RS2 and the RS3s and stuff, there's a lot of options out there. I know there's the RS3 Mini now as well, which I'm kind of looking into. That's definitely a possibility. And obviously then audio. You need some good audio for video. And I swear by the TX650s and the TX660s. They're small, they're compact, they're very easy to lose as well, and especially if someone has it in their pocket and they walk off with it, you might never see it again. But it's the audio quality from it, and considering its price, it's really, really good. So
I think also in saying all of this, we didn't just buy all of this at once. It took a while to build this up, and we went through lenses, tried them out, didn't like them. We went through recorders and we're like, no, that one's bugs out at this point, and we've done that research, and we've realized this is our best setup for us, and it's taken time. It did not happen overnight. I think it took me, I'd say 6 years to get the gear I have now, just buying new, upgrading, and then when a new one comes out, looking at it, saving up, selling my old one, buying a new one. It took time, and I think also we sort of said a whole lot of gear there. We did it felt like we said a lot of items, but in actual fact, it's only 3 bags. When we go to a wedding, we have your case, my backpack, and your lighting backpack. Yeah. And then the mag mod, the mag
box and stuff is separate. Yeah.
And that's it. Everything fits into. I mean, all of my gear fits into one backpack. Yeah. I mean, it's a big backpack for sure, but we've streamlined it to make it that. I remember when I shot one of my first weddings, I was walking around with 3 bags, just being like cameras, lenses, like which one in case I need this one, and pull it out, and then you never actually grab it. So we have streamlined it to our needs, and we can fit it all, and it's so easy to move. It's pick up in the car in one trip. Yeah.
And again, as Tim said, you don't need everything from that list. You don't need all the lenses, all the gear, all this, all that. You will need some of it. As I said, you'll need preferably a camera with 2 card slots. You'll need 1 or 2 good lenses that you can trust, that you know. And sometimes the best thing to work out if something is for you or not is just to rent it as well. There is somewhere to rent camera gear anywhere in the world, I feel. Like there's even here in Ireland, there's probably about 2 or 3 in Dublin that I know of that you can literally call up and have something organized within a couple of minutes.
Or even try and borrow from a friend if you can.
All that. So, you know, if you are just starting out, or if you're keen to get into weddings or whatever the case may be, and you don't know what to go for, what not to go for, rent or borrow and see how you get on. And, you know, that's the only way to find out if something works for you, is to use it. But yeah, that's kind of the overall. That's definitely the macro view of our gear and what we think works and what we would advise, you know, anyone looking to get into the industry or to get serious about the industry.
There's no one's better than the other. It is a lot of preference. Maybe the colors slightly differ between sensors, but as a whole, you can fix that in editing and like I'm not saying Canon's the best. You are saying Sony's the best. No, I'm just kidding.
Not so openly, but I mean, now that you're asking me, probably.
No, they're just maybe go to a camera store and pick one up and say, oh, I like where the buttons are on this one. Oh, I like how this feels in my hand. And go from there, really. I mean, just play around.
Yeah, look, I've been shooting Sony for 4 years now, and if I pick up a Canon, I still prefer how it feels in my hand to a Sony.
Yeah.
So,
and that's crazy.
But the color and everything else is worth it to me, you know?
There you go. Yeah. Personal preference.
Exactly. That's what it is. All right, so I think we'll probably end it there.
Lovely.
That has been a whole load of things, a whole lot of information. Hopefully none of it useless. And yeah, if you have any comments, questions, whatever the case may be, feel free to join us on our Facebook group, The Creative Collective. We would love to see you there. It's where you can interact with us. We can interact with you. We can learn more about what everyone is doing, what everyone's not doing. And you can ask us questions about topics that we've discussed in the podcast as well. And that's it, really. I'm done from my side. I think we chatted about everything we wanted to chat about. And
see you on the next one.
Yeah, see you on the next one.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers.